Hello, good morning y'all from Japan. It's Gaijin Subis, and today we're gonna have a little bit of a different video. We're gonna be welding on my GC8 or GF8 Impreza. So we're gonna be tackling the rear quarters and doing a full restoration as promised with gutting this car. Let's get to it. So I already prepped and put up the welding blanket and guarded off the tire with another welding blanket. The welder that we're going to be using is an Astro Products MIG semi-automatic welder. It uses a feed wire system found on cheaper welding machines, and it uses a 0.08 size feed wire for it. Alright, so for safety when you do this, you need to disconnect the battery on your car and disconnect the ECU. But before you disconnect the ECU, you also need to wait 30 minutes to let the ECU fully power down, because if any residual electricity in there meets the amperage coming out of the welder, it could potentially fry it. The current path for your welder is it is going to go from your ground to your torch or your gun or your feed gun, whatever you want to call it. That is going to be the current path, but the battery disconnection and the ECU disconnection is for safety. Just in case any stray voltage goes anywhere, it can fry a lot of stuff. And extra safety, if you want to be extra careful, you can pull all the fuses out of your car. So I peeled off most of the old patch panel. We are going to be measuring and prepping the surface of the rear quarter to butt weld onto the body. Alright, so now that we ripped off the old patch panel, we're going to be cutting and measuring, and we're going to cut out this old fender that's in here, and then we're going to butt weld everything in. As you can notice, there's a bunch of holes in here, and you can see there's all this crap that's along here. It looks like a body filler. As you can see, that is the condition of that arch. Just look at all that crap that's in there. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to remove all the body filler and material along this edge right here. And we're going to go to bare metal all around, all the way down to the bottom of the rocker panel where it meets. We're going to measure everything once we get to bare metal all around.
I guess it overheated.
Gotta thank Walmart on that one. In this corner, there is a high divot. I'm gonna knock it down so that way the die grinder has a smooth operation in this area. Alright, so what I did now is I measured the panel, and then we're going to cut about an inch below that along the entire thing. Probably to about here is when we're going to cut, and then down here we're going to just make like a little half circle, cut that out. Another thing I noticed is there was a lot of crumbling rust down in the corner, so I'm going to cut that out too, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of paint to it for now. We're going to tackle this bottom part when we do the rocker panel. Alright y'all, so now we are going to be using a Dremel. I have an angle grinder upstairs if it's a little too thin, but I do want to take my time with this, so I'm going to draw another line, my cutting line, to go down here around the body. Now we're going to mark this with an X, just so we know that this is our old surface that's getting cut off. Alright, so I'm going to get the angle grinder. Alright, just a little tip y'all, so whenever you're using an angle grinder, always use protection. Alright, let's get into it. Alright, so now what I've done is I have made a relief cut right here, and now we're going to cut off this panel of the rear quarter, and then we're going to tackle the arch itself. So what you were actually seeing right here is this seam sealer, and we need to remove that. We're going to try using a wire brush, so that way we can actually get to bare metal, so that way our cuts are clean and we don't catch anything on fire. But this is what the inside of the rear quarter looks like. So we have the wheel arch in itself, and this whole section underneath is the wheel apron. And there we go. That's original quarter panel material. So I'm hammering the wheel apron down, and we're gonna hammer it back up when we're done welding. And then we're gonna have to get under here, and we're gonna have to completely bend it out of the way so we can make our cut. So now what we're gonna do, since we have most of this separated, is we're gonna make some relief cuts in this apron in itself. Kind of like up here. Alright, we have to do this a different way. My goal is pretty much not to take the wheel off. I'll just be really careful with the angle grinder up until about here, because I just can't see the clearance that well. Alright, so I have fast forwarded a few hours, and I have come down on the wheel apron, and I have cut everything to size. It is time for this old girl to get her rear quarter panel welded in. Now we're just fitting this. I'm about to start welding now. Probably just do it there. I'm gonna place my first tack weld right in this corner. That didn't go over so well. Alright, not my best tack weld, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to add my tack welds all over. Yeah, I'm going to kind of fast forward on the video. Alright, so fast forward to this morning. So I have it currently jacked up and we have the panel mostly on. I have taken off the wheel and covered it with a welding blanket. We're going to take this wheel apron material on the inside, and then we're gonna press it as far in as we can, and then my goal is to essentially like weld it if I can, if there's contact, so we can get as much, and anything that looks rusty like up in here, I'm pretty much just gonna cut it out and then end up sealing it up with some paint for now. Right here, we also have a big opening right here. I'm gonna end up cutting out a lot of this rust. I'm gonna cut all around here, and I'm gonna end up making a patch to go inside of there. Basically, I wanna cut out all that old rotted sheet metal so we can get some good sheet metal in here. Alright, so I cut out this section that we're gonna make. Look at all those crumbs from the rust. So we're gonna remove as much as we can before we seal everything up. A little update. I placed the tack welds on this little part that I cut out, and I cut out a piece of square sheet metal for the bottom that we're gonna bend and contour to it. Now there's a lot of different ways to do this. I'm just doing it the way that I want to. I know my welds right now on the MIG aren't the best. I also haven't welded in a long time, but yeah, I'm gonna fast forward to where this piece is on, and we're gonna go from there, and then we're gonna make another piece that's gonna go in the back, and we're gonna lap weld that. Fast forwarded a few hours, so we have successfully gotten the patch panel done and installed on the car. So I do have a few holes. I don't really care to patch them up. I am just gonna cover it with body filler, and then the inside I'm gonna use a sealant on the inside of the apron. Basically I had to do a few lap welds for different pieces, and then we're gonna use body filler to contour the line on the car, so that way we can get the passenger side good to go.